In the New Testament, we catch these brief but telling glimpses into Jesus' family life, which root him firmly in a human context. The Gospels of Mark and Matthew provide us with specific details. In Mark chapter 6 verse 3, folks in his hometown of Nazareth react to his teachings asking, "Is not this the carpenter, the son of Mary and brother of James and Joses and Judas and Simon, and are not his sisters here with us?" This verse clearly names 4 brothers and mentions sisters, though they're not named. It gives us a starting point for understanding Jesus' immediate family circle. Matthew chapter 13 echoes this account, presenting a similar scene where astonished townspeople question Jesus' authority, saying, "Is not this the carpenter's son? Is not his mother called Mary? And are not his brothers James and Joseph and Simon and Judas? And are not all his sisters with us?" The names of the brothers vary slightly in some manuscripts, but the core info remains. Jesus had a mother, Mary, at least 4 brothers, and at least 2 sisters, as the plural sisters indicates. This family was well known to the Nazareth community. The reaction of the Nazareth crowd is significant. They knew Jesus and his family, an ordinary one. Joseph, his presumed father, was a carpenter, and Jesus likely learned this trade. The townspeople's familiarity with his humble origins made accepting his extraordinary wisdom and claims difficult, highlighting a key aspect of the gospel narratives. Jesus came from a normal background, making his divine mission surprising to those who knew him as just a local man. The nature of these sibling relationships has been debated for centuries. The Greek word for brother is usually meaning a full or half-brother. Some later Christian traditions, especially in Catholicism and Orthodoxy, teach Mary's perpetual virginity, suggesting the brothers were cousins or Joseph's children from a previous marriage. However, many scholars argue the most straightforward reading of the gospel text points to them being Jesus' younger half-siblings, likely children of Mary and Joseph born after Jesus. This interpretation fits the common understanding of the language used. The Gospels suggest that during Jesus' ministry his brothers weren't followers. John chapter 7 verse 5 explicitly states, "For not even his brothers believed in him." This skepticism makes their later transformation quite remarkable. The pivotal event seems to have been Jesus' resurrection. The Apostle Paul, writing in 1 Corinthians chapter 15 verse 7, lists James as one who saw the resurrected Christ. This appearance profoundly changed James, moving him from doubt to dedicated faith. This personal encounter was likely a turning point for James and possibly for other family members too. James, Jesus' brother, became a significant figure in the early Christian movement, rising to leadership within the Jerusalem church. The book of Acts portrays him as a central authority. At the Council of Jerusalem, James delivers a crucial speech, guiding the early church on including Gentile believers. Known for his piety and adherence to Jewish law, he was respected even among non-Christian Jews in Jerusalem. His leadership was vital in the church's fragile early years. The death of James is recorded by the first-century Jewish historian Flavius Josephus. Josephus describes James's martyrdom around 62 CE when the high priest Ananus had James and others stoned to death. Josephus's account is significant as an external, non-Christian source corroborating James's existence and importance in Jerusalem, also showing the dangers early Christian leaders faced. His death was a major event for the Jerusalem community. Less is known about Jesus' other brothers, Joses, Judas, and Simon, and even less about his sisters. Tradition holds they became believers too. The New Testament letter, the Epistle of Jude, identifies its author as a servant of Jesus Christ and brother of James, believed by many scholars to refer to Judas, Jesus' brother, suggesting another sibling was active in the Christian mission. The sisters remain unnamed and largely unrecorded, reflecting the common practice of ancient societies where women's roles were often less publicly documented. However, it's plausible they too played a part in the growing faith. Tracing the descendants of Jesus' family after the first generation is challenging, as direct historical records are sparse. Yet some early Christian writers showed interest in Jesus' relatives. Eusebius of Caesarea, a church historian from the early 4th century, provides intriguing accounts drawing on earlier sources like Hegesippus from the 2nd century. Eusebius mentioned individuals believed to be Jesus' relatives, suggesting the family line was remembered within certain Christian circles in Palestine. One notable story from Eusebius concerns the grandsons of Jude, one of Jesus' brothers. According to Hegesippus, whom Eusebius quotes, these men were brought before Roman Emperor Domitian, likely in the late 1st century. Domitian, concerned about potential claimants to Davidic lineage, was shown the grandson's calloused hands. As they explained, they were simple farmers with a small piece of land they worked themselves. Seeing their humble status and lack of political ambition, Domitian dismissed them. This story, if accurate, shows the family continued in modest circumstances. The term, meaning those belonging to the Master or the Lord's people, was used to refer to Jesus's blood relatives. Julius Africanus, another early Christian writer cited by Eusebius, mentioned noting they preserved their genealogies with care and held positions of respect, particularly in Jewish Christian communities. This suggests that, for a time, having a family connection to Jesus conferred a certain status or authority within these groups, seen as living links to Jesus. How historically reliable are these later accounts? Historians approach them with caution. Eusebius and Julius Africanus wrote centuries after the events concerning the first generation, relying on earlier traditions that may have been embellished over time. Oral transmission can alter details. However, these accounts aren't dismissed entirely, likely containing kernels of truth, indicating Jesus's family didn't simply vanish from history after the 1st century. There was awareness and interest in his relatives, with their perceived importance, especially in the early Palestinian church, seeming plausible. Identifying Jesus's family home in Nazareth precisely is a complex task. The Gospels tell us Jesus grew up in Nazareth, but they don't provide a specific address or detailed house description. In the 1st century CE, Nazareth was a small agricultural village, not a prominent city. Houses were modest structures likely built from local stone and mud brick, typically consisting of 1 or 2 rooms, maybe with a small courtyard. Finding a specific house from that period and linking it to a particular family is extremely difficult after 2 millennia. Archaeological excavations in Nazareth over many years have uncovered remains of Roman period dwellings, including from Jesus's time. One well-known site is beneath the Sisters of Nazareth convent, where excavations revealed a 1st century house with evidence of later Christian veneration. Some traditions identify this as the possible childhood home of Jesus. This claim is popular, attracting pilgrims and tourists, offering a tangible connection to the gospel stories for many visitors. However, most historians and archaeologists are skeptical about definitively identifying any specific ruin as Jesus's family home. There's no direct archaeological evidence, like an inscription, linking the house under the Sisters of Nazareth convent or any other specific 1st century house to Jesus's family. The veneration of certain sites often developed centuries later. While it's possible Jesus lived in one of the excavated 1st century houses, it's impossible to know which one. The claims are based more on later tradition and piety than on verifiable historical or archaeological proof. Nazareth provides the general setting, but specifics remain elusive. The family of Jesus holds significant historical and religious importance. Historically, their existence, attested in the Gospels and by external sources like Josephus, anchors Jesus as a figure within human history, countering any notion of him as a purely mythical being. Religiously, his family members, particularly his mother Mary and brother James, became highly venerated figures, playing crucial roles in early Christianity's development. While the question of whether Jesus's family lineage still exists today is unanswerable and largely faded from interest, the impact of his immediate kin on the nascent church and subsequent Christian tradition remains undeniable. Their story is an integral part of the larger narrative of early Christianity.